He aloha ia na mea nuila ke kahia ke kahi me ke aloha la. He aloha ia na mea nuila.
When you think about the relationships in ancient Hawaii between the living world and various people in them, one of the finest expressions of that can be found in Hawaiian chant. Hawaiian chant weaves elements of the natural world into what the chanter is saying and what the chanter is feeling. And I'd like to share just a little bit of Hawaiian chant that happens to be relevant to this particular island, the island of Oahu. Ohu ohu o ahu I ka le ohi alaka la'au pua ulahi kina ke a komohana. Komo ka ohu I ka hana komo a pana hana ta ohu e ho ohu I te ala ohi a. Ohu kani ohi a wehi wa no hotu aiwi. And what that chant said is, Oahu is wreathed by thick clouds on the mountains, which often is the case, and in fact is the case today. And it is also adorned by the ohia laka, that is a tree that has red lehua blossoms on one side and white on the other. It's a mythical tree from very old stories, and that's woven into the traditions of Oahu and indeed all of the Hawaiian Islands. The ohu, this mist, comes in on its appointed duties. That is the idea in Hawaiian thought that everything in the world has something to do, has a role to play in the universe. And the role of the ohia in this chant is to mix the fragrance of the lehua. That is, it comes in and it gathers the smell, the fragrance of the lehua blossoms from the different trees, and it mixes it all about as it moves through the uplands of Oahu. And this is the ohu kani ohia. That means the ohu that quenches the thirst of the ohia trees. And that harkens to the realization by ancient Hawaiians that not only does the rain water the earth, but the mists as it passes through the trees also provides moisture to the land. And so in this one little short chant is a realization of some of the ecological relationships that we were talking about.
From the north side of the island, the northwest side of the island, it's real windy out in Kohala. The Kohala, Makani, Apapa, there's strong winds. They get the strong winds which is coming off of the ocean. The northwest trade winds come in that way, and it comes off of the ocean, and it brings all this warm air off of the ocean. So all this wind is coming off the ocean, has all this water, and all of a sudden it hits the big island. So it hits the big island. Where does it go? It has to go up Mauka. So what happens, you have all this wet clouds and rain. It hits the Kohala Mountains and Mauna Kea and Hilo, comes from that side. And as it starts going up the mountain, as it gets too high up, it lets all of its moisture come down as rain. That's why Hamakua all the way to Hilo is so wet, because all this water comes off the ocean, formed clouds, and you get all the rain. That's why you have all rivers from Hilo to here. But on the big island, the mountains is so big, the biggest in the whole chain, it blocks all the moist air from getting to Kona, so Kona is dry. So Kona doesn't get it. It gets all the little leftovers, and then Kona's rain comes from some other processes. So the rain comes down, so one, it goes into the soil, they call it groundwater, right? Water underground, groundwater. So one goes groundwater, one is surface water. That's the streams, and the lakes is surface water. So surface water, groundwater. Two more places to it. I think you know one back. In the what? In the plants. Yeah, right on. So the plants, all the plants need water to grow. So one more place besides the plants. So right now we got, it goes into the plants, into the ground, into the rivers. Yeah.
Evaporates.
Exactly, it evaporates back into the sky. Okay, so that's all of it. So you guys just learned the whole hydrologic cycle. Hydrologic cycles, how water cycles. So it rains, some goes back up, evaporates, some the trees take it and transpire it. That's what they call transpiration. Some goes into the ground, into the groundwater. Some goes into the rivers. And then in the end, whatever's left over, oh yeah, we take some of it and we drink it. Whatever's left over goes into the ocean. So what are the kind of issues we have here in Hawaii as far as water? There's two kinds of issues. There's water quantity issues and water quality issues. All that means is water quantity is how much water we get. That's quantity issues, okay? How much? The other kind of problems we have in Hawaii is quality, which is how good is the water. So that's what I do as a hydrologist. I deal with making sure we have enough water and then making sure that it's clean. What we have is clean enough to use.
Because I know this place, I know like my 5 finger. All the roads, all the water from up the mountain coming down to the beach, I know where they come from. Okay? Over here, Kukui here, where when I was young, we used to swim down here. This is the pond. The pond is all blocked up now. Before it was really big and deep. And another thing is, what's good to show is how the water that runs from the river up there coming down like that. You see where the boy, they're fixing over there. I told the boy, I said, where they got a bank more is up there. Because the river, how he come down like that and he turn, make a little turn. On the turn, I swear all the water from up there rush come down, he can climb like that. And they're going to eat more on the side. So you got to look at the contour of the river, how he come down. So the deeper side, I swear more water, the force going to be in there. If the river is wide, then the force cuts down. The only deeper spot, I swear more force will come over there, more water be seeking there. So all those things you gotta realize and understand.
Noticing how the plants respond to the land, to my care and all that. So it's kind of like when you dance to the rhythm of the music. I don't know if you can understand that, right? With music, when you dance, there's rhythm. Well, there's rhythm also to the land here, to the earth, and it's like you gotta watch and see the cycles that come along with the sun and the rain and how the earth responds.
The gods of creation in Hawaii are Ku, Kane, and Kanaloa. The waters of Kane is an expression of the appreciation of the Hawaiian people and the knowledge of water, wind, clouds, and where the rains are. E uiaku ana au ia oi, aia I hea ka vai a Kane, aia I ke kuahiwi, I ke kualono, I ke avava, I ke kahawai, aia I laila ka vai a Kane. I ask you, where is the water of Kane? There, on the mountain, on the ridge, in the gulch, in the stream. There is the water of Kane.
So to me, if you don't truly understand that place, you cannot do a good job of using a numerical Western water model effectively if you don't truly understand how things work in that place. It's an example of, to me that's an example of someone cannot just blindly come in with something taught on the East Coast and model a Hawaiian system if they don't start to understand the little nuances, how the system works, the exceptions to the rules that aren't in a textbook. And that's where Hawaiian knowledge becomes very valuable. The kupuna from the area know all the little exceptions to the rule, where that exists.
So in ancient times, the idea of sustainability just came naturally. Water, for example, might have come from a stream, be moved through different taro terraces, and then return to the stream to re-enter the water cycle. And so eventually that water entering the sea and then returning to the cycle of the hydrological cycle that provides water to the land once again. By the same token, the idea of sustainability in our modern lives is such that we can look to the same kinds of principles. how to maintain our watersheds so that the water cycle is more or less unimpeded by us, how to make sure that the water that moves downstreams and into the ocean is as clean as it enters the ocean as when it's moving through its uppermost sections, and even down to the realm of energy. How can we find sources of energy that don't rely on fossil fuels being used up and then that's the end of it? We're working on ways of gathering energy from wind and from the tides and from temperature differences in the oceans, and all of those kinds of things may lead eventually into a society in which our energy and all the materials that we use cycle and recycle into the world around us, so that we're not just consuming things and throwing them away.